Located on 225 acres in Garden City, Long Island, Nassau Community College, a member of the State University of New York system, has close to 20,000 students attend the school each year. The college mascot is Leo the Lion, and these are his stories of the school's absolute best and brightest who have graduated over the past 50 plus years. So let's catch up together as the Alumni Association of Nassau Community College proudly presents Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Lion Tales. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and I am a director on the board of the Alumni Association at Nassau Community College and a proud graduate. I am here to celebrate the successes of our alum, and together we will share stories that will uplift, inspire, and often amuse you. Each week, I will introduce you to the alumni of Nassau Community College, interested in sharing their experiences while attending the college and the secrets to their success. Look for many new and exciting events on the Alumni Association social media pages and share any exciting news with us on Facebook, Instagram, or on our webpage at ncc.edu/alumni. Or find me on X at Dr. Lynnda Nadien. The lion is the mascot for Nassau Community College. The lion is associated with balancing power, intention, physical strength, and grace. Our alum possess these same characteristics and symbolize courage and strength and royalty and valor. Lions are a symbol of royalty, and all of our alum contribute to the beauty of our college society. Together, we are Lion Tales. Today, I would like to welcome to Lion Tales Keith Daniel Saunders, class of 1990. Keith Daniel Saunders is a highly regarded educator and school leader. His career in education spans more than 30 years. He is a teacher, an administrator, a mentor, and a dedicated to serving his community. He has a passion for civic and community work and is the president and co-founder of a youth empowerment program, Saunders Omnipresent Network, Inspiring America's Youth Incorporated. Keith is also a deacon at the House of Judah Church in West Sayville, New York. He is a proud husband, father, and community leader. Welcome to Lion Tales, Keith Daniel Saunders, class of 1990.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So we're going to go back a little bit, talking about your first intentions upon graduating high school and what led you to Nassau Community College.
Well, I went to the mighty Kellenberg Memorial High School, which is across the street from Nassau Community College.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And my tenure at Kellenberg was a great experience. I was the first part of the first graduating class ever of Kellenberg, because prior to that, it was Maria Regina, then it became St. Agnes, and then it became Kellenberg, all in my 4-year tenure.
Wow, oh, that's amazing.
So my high school ring says St. Agnes, that's what we were junior year. And senior year, we graduated from Kellenberg, so we were the first graduating class. And I'm from the community of Roosevelt, which is less than 3 miles away. And growing up in that community, I had the opportunity of just wanting more. My mom is a graduate of, she attended South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and she always wanted more for me. So she sacrificed for me to go to Kellenberg, and she sacrificed for me to have a better life. Absolutely. So when it was time to go to college, it was a matter of what is the most strategic way to go without spending a lot of money, and Nassau was it. And I had the opportunity literally to practically go across Hempstead Turnpike to Nassau Community College to continue my career in education.
That's amazing. So tell us about your first experiences on this campus, going from Kellenberg, which is a very, controlled environment across the street and, very specific to a school per se, but then coming across to a campus where you sort of have more independence. What was that like? It
was a little different because a lot of my colleagues at St. Agnes, Kellenberg, were going to these prestigious schools. And they kind of made fun of those who went to Nassau. And so it was like a little hesitant at first until you got on campus and see how friendly they were and the staff was and how friendly you're meeting students from all over. You don't realize that students from all over the tri-state attend school at Nassau. Right. You think it's just local, Nassau County. And then you realize that with the athletic teams, some of these athletes who end up, a lot of people don't realize a lot of pro athletes come out of Nassau. They start at Nassau first in football, and they go to these prestigious 4-year institutions. Then they end up in the pros, but they didn't come from the tri-state. They came from further away. So a lot of people understood the value of Nassau Community College who did not live here.
Right.
And by me being on campus and being around those other athletes and other students, I learned the value. I came in and taking remedial courses.
Yes.
Because I never did well with state assessments.
Right, yeah.
And
And then a lot of
when
students come in like that. Yep.
And taking those remedial courses, it was a lesson learned because you have to pay and you get no credit.
Yeah.
And it forced me to really buckle down as a student. And I was lucky to have some really great advisors because I came in wanting to be a physical therapist. I was a basketball player in high school, and I played football in high school, but I had tendonitis in both knees. So I knew my career path was going to change because my body couldn't sustain it.
Right.
And I came in and said, I want to be at least part of the athletic world, so let me work on becoming a physical therapist. And then I said, that shifted to, I want to make money. I want to be an accountant.
Yeah.
And then a counselor put me in African history courses. And I went and resisted, and I ended up meeting Professor Wise, who had a big impact on my life.
Oh, I had Professor Wise, too. Oh, he was the greatest. I had him for sociology.
Yeah, he was the first black male teacher I ever had in my life.
Wow, that's incredible. And, even for me, I think he was the first black male teacher that I ever had in my life.
Literally. And
Yeah.
then from there, I took Miss James. And then from Miss James, I ended up meeting Professor Kenneth Jenkins, who became my mentor. And from his impact on my life, I changed my major to education because I wanted to do what he did. I wanted to have the impact that he had on me or other children.
Yes, absolutely. And so so he sort of motivated you to move toward a career in education. How did he do that? What were some of the things that he inspired in you to focus on possibly becoming a teacher at that time?
The amount of information that I just didn't know, that I wasn't privy to in 12 years of education, that he was exposing me to and the rest of the class to, it was overwhelming
Yeah.
and impactful. And first you get a little angry because why haven't I known this?
Yes.
And then once you get through the anger stage, I want to learn more.
Right.
So he never said, Keith, I want you to be following my footsteps. Just watching him, he was very, like I said, when I received the award, he spoke in measured tones. He never raised his voice, but he always made you think.
Yes.
And that inspired me to want to study African history and culture, and that's how I ended up at Stony Brook, because they had an African history program, an Africana Studies program. My bachelor's degree is in Africana Studies.
Yes.
And you can't teach with that, so I had to become a social studies teacher in order to use it. And that being said, just from watching how the students responded to Professor Jenkins, how he motivated other students. He used to always correct me on my grammar.
Uh-huh.
And he used to always provide little nuggets of words of wisdom in reference to about life and finances, that he didn't have to do that.
Right.
And one lesson that I learned from him, he used to always say, Keith, before you get married and before you have children, make sure you get your degree. Make sure you don't rent, that you buy a house, and then you start your family.
Yeah.
And that's the blueprint I literally followed.
Yeah, there were so many professors here, and, Professor Wise is one of them, that really inspired many of the students, because I remember that class really well, that he said things and he directed our attention to things that we wouldn't have been aware of. Again, our parents were probably saying things to us in a similar way, but when you come into a university or college campus and you have a sort of a stranger that you'll get to know, over the next 15 weeks of having the class, that person becomes such a big influence on you. And now you are really the leader. Why is it so important to you to empower students that you're working with right now?
A lot of students that I'm working with right now are just like me. They grew up without a father. They have mama and grandma and auntie, but no dad.
Right.
And the men in the family are there sometimes, but they're not necessarily productive in a way of society in regards to finances, owning property, owning homes, investments. So I wanted to my mom would say, break the generational curse and go into the profession where you have access to young minds of all races and ethnicities. I think everybody needs to see a diversity in regards to their education, and be that leader, that motivator, that encourager, that one to love you through your faults.
Yes.
To help inspire you to see what's beyond what you can see with your natural eyes and what's beyond your relative community. So I want to be that person to expose you to different colleges and then take you out of your community and expose you to New York City. I've done trips for the first time where children have never been on the Long Island Railroad.
Right. Yes, that's true.
I've taken children to Jones Beach who's never been to Jones Beach, and they live in Freeport.
Yeah, it's incredible. You are listening to Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and our guest today is Keith Daniel Saunders, class of 1990. So we're speaking about empowering students, and also there's definitely a big regard for diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools and in our communities. And, you know as well as I do that we probably have not been doing such a great job with using the DEI model, the way that it's intended. How do you think that we can get better at that and making sure that when we speak about inclusion, that it really does improve the work we're doing and does support all of the learners?
The inclusion component is, we think about students all the time, but what about the inclusion component of the teachers? We have a very diverse, sometimes, in Uniondale, we were fortunate, because I had the pleasure of working with you in Uniondale.
Yes.
We had a diverse staff. We
did.
But I don't think we got the most out of that staff and the different cultures that were there.
Yes.
Because students need to the students need to be exposed to the culture of the staff as well. And the staff need to have cultural proficiency and asset pedagogy also to really focus on the students as well. So it's an exchange. And a lot of times we get caught up in the systematic things and we don't really go dig down into the exchange. And when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's in your financing, that's in your ordering textbooks, that's in your hiring of staff, that's in the trips that you decide to take, the literature that you decide to read. It's very well-rounded. It's
right.
Not just one thing. And that diversity is not just about black and white.
Right.
We have students, we have a large immigrant population that's coming in from all over South America that we need to learn about. And you and I were blessed to be in Uniondale, where there's a large Haitian population, there's a large African population. Just because of the complexion, we call them black, but culturally, there's a distinct difference that we have to drill down and get to know.
Yeah, and it's so amazing when you it's not just about having sort of an international night, we're sharing food of the culture, but it's so much more than that there's something intrinsic about it, that we can really learn so much from all the different cultures that we're exposed to. And I think that absolutely helps the learning process, because if students know that they have value and that their languages have value and that the food that they eat is of value and that they can share all of that with other people, in any kind of setting, I think it does give them some form of empowerment and really a sense of belonging, especially when they come to the country for the first time. And it really is, it has to be something to get used to. Just like if we were traveling out of the country, we would also have that assimilation process going on as well.
Speaking from my own perspective, I went from being a career C student to an A student.
Yeah.
All because I was presented with information that, wow, you can really do this.
Yes.
And I was given examples that looked like me that showed that, you can really accomplish this. You could be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And you could break the generational curses in your family.
Right.
And you could change the financial dynamic of your family. And I was like, wow. And then my whole focus I became an academic.
Yes.
I went from just barely getting by to being focused on becoming an academic because somebody unlocked something that was deep in me that they knew that was there that I couldn't see.
Right. Yeah. And, that's really...
And I wanted to become that key for other students and unlock them of their potential and their greatness and what they could become and how they could impact their families. Because to be honest with you, when you unlock that greatness, some of your family members are not going to understand.
Right, that's
and
true.
they're going to feel that you're trying to leave them.
Yes.
And that you're too good for them now, that you're separate from them because I lived it.
Yeah. I remember
But at the end of the day,
Mr. Latif would always speak about that. He was also worked in Uniondale at one point. I don't know if you ever were able to meet him or interact with him, but he said that exactly what you were just saying, that he came out of a cycle and people looked at him differently, even down to the shoes that he was wearing. Oh, you got on those $150 shoes now, man, so you're not one of us. And, I remember that always made him sort of feel like, no, that's not what it really was about. I just decided that I could do it. Someone put it in my head that I could be what I wanted to be. So I always think that that's so incredible. How has faith and church provided you with stamina to, prevail when you faced adversity?
The faith is something bigger than you, is what sustained me for 30 years in this business.
Yeah.
I have a friend who quoted this term of the war on both sides. We're an educator. You could probably relate to this. You are advocating for children behind closed doors that the families are not aware of.
Yes.
And sometimes you may go to bat to have arguments, and as Brene Brown would say, rumble with dignity with your colleagues on behalf of a student.
Yes.
But meanwhile, that parent sees you, like, for example, me, I'm a male, in a suit and tie, that I'm part of the system, and I'm automatically, quote unquote, an Uncle Tom or this or that because I work for the system, not realizing I'm the only advocate, I'm the only voice behind closed doors advocating for their child.
Yeah.
So you have that battle on both sides. You have a battle with the parents, and sometimes you rumble with your colleagues on behalf of the student because you're the advocate for the student, and you're caught in the middle. And that faith, that belief in a higher power is what sustained me personally through all the trials and tribulations that I've been through in the last 2 years, because unfortunately, some of my trials and tribulations were public, but my faith sustained me, and it brought me through the other side of being victorious. So because of my faith and perseverance and a loving wife and children and friends who care and were supportive, it allowed me to mentally stay sane and get through the difficult times in this business. And you could probably relate to that because we all have difficult times in this business.
Absolutely. And you absolutely really, I feel that like deep within my gut, that how much I really and truly love the kids and want what's best for them. And sometimes I look at them and say, wow, I remember what that was like when you really were a student, a young student, very unsure of yourself, or, not really sure exactly what the teacher wanted from you. And did they really want the best from you? Because, not all teachers are, they could be like overly strict where they kind of miss out on that sort of constructivist framework where you can kind of let go a little bit so kids can have a little bit of a comfort level in the room, because it's a lot to be in school all day and to be part of a classroom where, you don't want to be made fun of if you say anything, or if you're interested in a certain type of a book, or, you want to speak out a little bit, but you don't want to be chastised for that too. And, faith and, I know we separate, church and state, but at the same time, there is that element that, we're all together for the greater good. And I think we should always move forward in that type of framework. And
when you have that kind of faith, that faith allows you to have empathy.
Yes.
And it allows you to forgive. Because as you know, in this business, some of the students will say the most cruelest things to you.
Yeah.
And some of the parents will say the most cruelest things to you.
Yeah.
But you will say, God bless. And in the name of Jesus, I'm going to pray for you.
Yes.
And sure enough, later on, that same parent who cussed you out will come back and apologize.
Yeah. I've had parents over the years where, you're kind of at odds with them, but then they become like your best friend ever.
Absolutely.
That's
they
happened.
become your advocate because you remain consistent.
Yeah. And, you want them to trust and believe that you really do have their best interests at heart, even though maybe there's something, a suspension or something terrible happened. And I always say you can have a really bad day, but the next day will be better. And it doesn't mean that your child is going to be victimized or going to be labeled, because that always bothered me too. I'm not one to. I was always one to sort of correct the behaviors and not focus on a child that, he must be a behavior problem now. You are listening to Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and our guest today is Keith Daniel Saunders, class of 1990. Now, one big thing is that you've been an inspiration for many young black males, which this is very important to you and to your work. Can you talk a little bit about that and about your organization?
Yes, absolutely. Before I came to Unity, I was working in a Hempstead community that started an after-school program called Panther. And that was a mentoring program for all students in the building. It wasn't just African-American students, but it was a mixture of the population that we served at the time. And that was a continuation of pretty much what I learned from Professor Jenkins in regards to teaching about their culture, exposing them outside of the community, and developing relationships with the families.
Yes.
Not just the student, but with their mother, their father, their sister, their brother. So at one point, we could actually, in history, before the laws changed, you could actually go pick a kid up on a weekend.
Yeah.
In your own car.
Yeah, now you, yes. Yeah, now we can't really do that.
No, you can't do that anymore.
No.
You're setting yourself up for litigation.
Yes.
But during that time period, in the early days, you can do that. And that's how you build a relationship, a bond. You could take them. When I was working for the STAR program in Hempstead High School, we used to take the kids on the weekend to the park in Garden City to take them out of Hempstead to Garden City to play basketball with the staff.
Yeah.
We would take them to concerts. We would take them on college tours. And that's where the bonding is happening at outside of the school.
Absolutely.
And then I progressed and ended up in Unionville, and we started the Male Engagement Initiative that I actually started before it became a district-wide thing with Dr. Lloyd and Major Foster and Justin Williams, and it became a district-wide thing. And that was a beautiful experience because, again, we started teaching the young men how to be young men, how to tie a tie, how to dress for an interview. We started dealing with the basic fundamentals of having circles where they talk about their feelings, and it was very productive, bringing in guest speakers, professional guest speakers, and local community people who've been through some stuff to share their stories.
Yep.
And it became something that fed their soul, something that they needed. And then eventually I started my own nonprofit organization called Saunders Omnipresent Network, Inspiring America's Youth Incorporated, which is short for SONIA, with a Y, SONIA.
Yes.
Y. My wife's name was Sonia A. Fran Saunders. She died from breast cancer. And after her passing, I started this nonprofit in her memory and her name in the community of North Babylon. And we serviced the Suffolk County. So I was doing the work with the male engagement in Unionville and leaving there and going to my community where I lived in North Babylon and continuing that work.
Wow, yeah.
So I was working simultaneously between Suffolk and Nassau County, trying to save the lives of young men who were at risk. Because I think all young people are at risk now, regardless of race or ethnicity, because of the influence of social media and everything else.
Yes.
But in that regards, I was working simultaneously between towns. I was recognized by the leaders in Nassau County, politicians. My organization is recognized by Congress. We're in the Library of Congress for recognition when Steve Israel was in office.
Yes.
So we were recognized. We was doing clothing drives. We was doing Thanksgiving dinners. We were volunteering. We would cancel walks because of my wife. So I was exposing our young people to all variety of different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are extremely successful now because of the exposure. My organization ran concurrently from 2003 to the pandemic to 2019 without missing a day.
Incredible. Now, you are an educator of excellence, and you were recently honored at the Nassau Community College Gala sponsored by the Alumni Association. So, describe that feeling of being able to sort of stand up in front of that crowd and say, I started at Nassau, and now look at me now.
It was like a dream. It was surreal when you receive an honor of that magnitude and you don't expect it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, you realize that all the blood, sweat, and tears that you went through, somebody was watching.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Take the time out to honor you on that magnitude. And I had my wife present, and some of my members of my church were present. Some of my colleagues from work were present. One of my board members from my organization was present. And it was just, the spirit overwhelmed me because I wanted to take that opportunity not to focus on me, but to focus on the one who made me, which is Professor Jenkins, the one who inspired me, the one who motivated me, the one who educated me on the steps to manhood and the steps to fatherhood. And I wanted to take that opportunity to really highlight him. And I think I did that.
Absolutely. Now, what advice would you give to our incoming freshman class?
The advice I would give is take school serious. School is not just for you to learn, it's for you to network. Make sure you network with your classmates because you don't know where they're going to end up. Come up with a business plan for yourself. Make sure you get your degree. Use that degree to develop a side hustle for yourself in addition to what you're doing, because you got to have more than one money stream.
Yes.
Because living on Long Island is extremely expensive.
Yes, it is.
And if you want to be successful with a house and a car and all the luxuries that you see on social media and TV, you have to work hard for it. And you have to be able to delegate your time. And there's an old expression, work hard and play hard. You can work hard and have time management is extremely important. As a student, make sure you budget, make sure you invest.
Yes.
And you can start now. So when you become my age of 53, you may have $1 million sitting there from your investments.
Absolutely.
I don't have that because I came from humble beginnings.
Yeah.
And because of after my wife passed, I was blessed to find another wife, and she was financially savvy, and she was able to educate me. So I'm trying to catch up now.
Yes.
So I'm sharing my story with the current students who may be listening. Don't wait like me till in your 40s to try to do this. Do it now.
Right.
Prepare yourself now financially. Make sure you learn how to budget.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to thank our guest, Keith Daniel Saunders, class of 1990. How can our listeners contact you?
You can contact me on Instagram at Keith, KEITH _ Saunders, SAUNDERS _Senior _ or you can look me up on LinkedIn under Keith Daniel Saunders Sr. I'm the only one.
Thank you for being here today, Keith. Thanks so much for being a guest today. My name is Dr. Lynnda Nadien, and I serve as a director on the board of the Nassau Community College Alumni Association, and I am a proud alum. Lion Tales is available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. More information is online at nccradio.org. Thanks for listening to Lion Tales on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.